Good morning, YouTube. How you guys doing this fine day? Hopefully good. Today we're gonna make another cornhole board, and I have to remember how I did it, but it shouldn't be that bad. I already have these torn off already, so I would say I'm cheating, but I already went through all the blood, sweat, and tears to get those apart. But I will try to. The last one was like a test to make sure. The last one was kind of a test because I didn't know how they would play out or how it would look. And as you can see, I think I've showed you the final product, but they're clear coated 3 times, and I just bought. They're not quite as. I mean, it's butter smooth. Like, that's super smooth, but I think I need to wax it to make it not as. See, it's kind of like an epoxy where it's like hard stuff, and it's not, it's flat. Like if a bag hits here, it'll slide, but it's gripping a little too much for me, and that's that. I also made 2 over here that I'll show you. These are stained with dark walnut and just plywood. They're just normal cornhole boards that I made. And I have to make another set of as well. But let's get into this, and I'll like I said, I'll step-by-step walk you through, because the last one was a step-by-step, and I didn't do a very good job of explaining things. It was more just a vlog, where this will be a how-to DIY cornhole boards out of pallet wood. And like the only thing I used in that was a piece of Luan. So all pallets. If you have a pallet, you probably need 2 pallets. If you're making 2 boards, maybe 3 pallets. And tear apart all the boards. I have some scraps down here, as you can see. And I will walk you through this. Okay, so for these are already 4 foot. Let's see if I can do my best to show you guys that too. So whatever pallet you get, it's really hard to show, and there. These are already 4 foot. They're a little short for 4 foot. Both of these are the same. So when you're doing a cornhole board, they're 4 foot by 2 foot, if you didn't know. So the plan is, we got 2 for the 4 foot sides, okay? Those are just runners or stringers for the pallets. Then you take a 3rd one, okay? You find your center point here. So this is a 4 foot section, so I need 2 foot. They're a little shorter than 4, so I'm going to do maybe a notch or 2 back. There, that should be half, right there. Okay, now these are 1 inch, a little over 1 inch. So take off 1 inch, 2 inches. Take off 2 inches, a little over 2 inches. So what I'll do here is I'll put a 2 foot section, okay? And then I'll bring it back 1, 2 inches, a little more than 2 inches. Okay. And then make your mark down here, okay? So this right here, from there to there, take 2 inches off. Why? Is because these halves are gonna go in between the runners, okay? So these are gonna be set up like this, and these cut sections are gonna go here and here on the ends, okay? So let me triple check this before I start anything. Yeah, 1 inch, a little over 1 inch. A little over 1 inch. So if it's 2 foot, I'd take off 2 inches and a little more. Probably about 21 3/4 is what you're gonna want. Okay, so I can cut on that side of it. All right, let's do the same here. So set up for 2 foot. Okay, as you can see, I'm literally right on the end of this, and then take it back That's 1 inch. That's 2 inches. We'll go 21 3/4. Okay, I set it there. Mark at the end of your section. All right, let's cut these. Before you start cutting anything, make sure you have no nails in these sections because that will mess your blade up bad. And I don't. So let's make sure this is right. Look steady there. Right. Shouldn't hit a nail here or have any nails in there to begin with. So let's flip. I can't. I'll make sure it's good. I'm going to make sure that this is correct here. Yep, 2 foot on the dot. Okay. Let's do the same thing with this one then. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to show this not as easy with one hand. There. That's 2 foot right there, okay? So there's your side-by-side section for 2 foot. And then I cut a duplicate right here. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand these down so there's no imperfections. They should sit flat. Everything should sit flat. I'll sand them down with 40 grit. And then they don't really need to be hit any less. The top's what has to be soft and smooth. But if I feel like it needs more, I will sand it more. 40 grit should be good. If you really want to take it up to 80 grit or a 60, 120, whatever you want to do, 220, you can make it all baby smooth, but you're not really going to be touching this part anyways. So let's get into that. Okay, for this, you're probably going to need a jig. I have one. This is a 3-inch, or can do up to 3 inches, I should say, jig. And all you're going to do is you're going to set these in here, like so, clamp it up, and you're just drilling in pocket screws. It's a pocket jig. You don't absolutely need this, but it'll look a lot better than running screws in the side. But if you want, you can. But all this is doing is just hiding all the screws that you have to put in. So I'm gonna do both sides of each of these small 2-footers and screw them in, and then we'll get to the Luan. Okay, so what I've done here is I've set this on top of my frame. I got my frame all built, okay? Set this on the frame. Now this board is a little wonky, but it's fine. The only reason I say that is because down here it's pretty flush, you see? And over here you've got a lot of overhang. I can sand that down. I'm not worried about it. But what I don't want is to have too little down here. Like I'd rather have to sand more off is what I'm getting at basically. You don't want to have too little and then not have anything to work with. So I've set it up how I want it and I mapped it all out. Now I'm just gonna flip this over. I'm gonna take my square and I'm gonna run it along this and make me a nice line to cut through. Okay, so here's my line. I want to kind of cut on the side of it. Like I said, I'd rather sand off more if I had to than not have enough to work with. And this is just a drywall square. That's all I'm using here. If you don't have a drywall square, then you can use a normal square and then the straightest 2x4 you can find, which good luck with that. But you can kind of line it up that way. So let's get this cut and set on top. Okay, there is our base for the cornhole board. And I got a lot of questions last time. And not even necessarily on YouTube, but I got a lot of questions from family members and friends. Why did you use Luan? Well, you see, this is like half the weight it would be if you used plywood. These are plywood. This is Luan. This is like 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch or whatever you want to call it. Luan. And it makes it way lighter. That's why. And from personal experience, figured I'd fill you in on this one. Whenever you're starting to put wood on these, I tried, let's just, for instance, I tried gluing these down. It's not worth your time. I just nailed them in with a nailer. If you don't have one of these, I'm not sponsored by DeWalt whatsoever, but these things are freaking awesome. They are brushless brad nailers. This one's an 18 gauge. Bought this for a Christmas present for my dad, and I think I've used it more than he has. Selfish purchase, kinda. I figured, I mean, he has like compressor ones, and I have an air compressor right here, but this thing's just so handy to just walk around and nail things with. So I nailed the Luan on. You could glue it on if you wanted and you didn't want to nail it. Nailing, literally not going to hurt anything. And then I'm going to start nailing these boards on here and show you that process. So I'll probably just time lapse this. All I did is I have some, like this is a board that's cut in half, okay? Like directly in half. And what I do is I do like flooring where I probably won't start with this one only because it's a half one. Maybe I'll start with probably like this, okay? So you got a piece like this. You set it down, you line it up, okay? So it's right in the corner there, okay? And then you add this piece on, and whatever you have left, you cut off. And whatever this is, starts this back here, and then you make it that way. Kind of like flooring, if you've ever done flooring or something like that. So I have a few scraps here that I'll play around with, and then I have more wood out there if I need more, which I will need more, but let's start with this and see if we can find a cool pattern to put on it. Okay, this is the second board. As you can see, there's some gaps here that I have a lot of work to do. But this time, I think I outsmarted it, and I think I have an idea for this. Stay tuned for tomorrow, which will be in literally 30 seconds or so, because I'm not sanding all this right now. I had to shower because I'm sweaty and gross. I'm gonna start working on getting some of these pallets put back to the boards, and I think it turned out all right. I like the color pattern. There's a lot more skinnier ones. They kind of worked out a little better. Last time they were too shallow, where these sit pretty flush. I don't have a whole lot of work to do though. Just this is a big one. The rest sits pretty good actually. This board is I was contemplating putting it in the first place because it's got some rod in it. But I like it. So, should be good. I'll see you guys tomorrow when I'm sanding this, and we will continue on from there. All right, good morning, YouTube. It is the next day, and I think I found a solution. I have this grinder tool, and I'm thinking that I can grind down the devious spots, which is kind of just, I'm just kind of feeling my hands. It's kind of just like this board. This one is a little bit up. Other than that, we're pretty good. So I'm gonna grind this down pretty flat and see how that works, because last time the board doesn't have issues, but it's not flat, and I would rather it be flat. And I sanded and sanded and sanded and sanded and sanded. So hopefully this takes away those issues, and then I can sand her down flat and flush and get it all nice and smooth, so it makes it easier to wax it all. Let's try this. Okay, so the top is all sanded to 220. I know 40 grit's kind of hard to find sometimes, so you can do 60, 80, 120, 220. I went 40, 80, 120, 220. Sanded her smooth, grinded her down, so she should be pretty good. Now, these legs, this is what I'm trying to figure out here. For cornhole boards, they have to be 12 foot off the ground from this end. This is the top. Make sure it's top. Yeah, that's top. So from where you're going to cut the hole here, these need to be 12 feet off the ground. So what I did is these are 2x3s, and I cut down the sides so that they rotate pretty well. I probably didn't even need to cut down both sides now that I think about it. Jeez. If you cut down one side, you should be good, okay? Because all you got to have it do is rotate a little bit, and it's going to be lifted. It's not going to sit at the bottom because you need it to rotate the full way, okay? So this is, sorry, this is a test. I'm going to try to figure this out for us because I'm not 100% sure how this is going to work, but we're going to do a little bit of testing, and once I figure it out, I will let you know. But I'm gonna play around with it a little bit. I also bought these bolts. That bolt in here, that's plenty. That's good actually. And I bought a few washers and nuts to go with it, so that'll work pretty good hopefully. Okay, there you have it. Let's get the exact measurements for you here. These are just over 11 inches. Okay. And all I did for this one, I don't even know if I really need to cut this one. Okay, so these, for instance, are really hard to turn because I'm using crappy boards for this. These are so warped, I couldn't use them for a blanket ladder. So I figured they'd make good legs, but they're pretty hard to turn, which isn't a bad thing because if they're harder to turn, that means they're not gonna collapse on you, which they probably won't. And I set it outside. I had to cut them down a little more because they weren't perfect. They seemed a little high, but, and then note to self, I bought 3.5 inch bolts, washers and nuts. If you're doing this at home, for all those watching this, use lock nuts. I have to go back and buy lock nuts now because they loosen every time you turn one of these. Let's see if I can move this one easier. They loosen when you push down. So, but yeah, if you're doing this at home, you can just cut a little notch here. It's not even rubbing. Like I said, it's just, there's clearance there. It's just so warped. Like you can see here probably. Let me get a better angle. You can see how far away it separates here. So they're just really warped. And like I said, that's why I literally wrote, when I used them, I wrote legs on them because they're so warped that, seems probably straight on camera, but I couldn't use them for a ladder. So, and then all you'll do is so another tip of advice here. If you have a 6-inch circular saw, or I guess it's technically a saw, they're more for cutting can lights in recessed lighting or something like that. Those are perfect for this. The hole is supposed to be 6 inches. And let me flip this over and show you that then. They're still they're still pretty light in all honesty. So you go 9 inches from the top. Let's get my tape measure here. trying to show you everything so you know. Regulation is 9 inches from the top, okay? And then they're 2-foot boards, so you go 12 inches on each side. Boom. So I'm dead on the center with that little dot there. And then you cut out there. If you don't, I did this on one of the plywood boards. It didn't look great, but if you have to, what you can do is you can grab a normal saw and like try to measure out 6 inches, make your circle, cut, and then skill saw it out. Not very easy, let me tell you. So 6-inch circular saw works really good for that. But honestly, this one turned out pretty good. All I did for this, before I let you guys go here, because I'm not gonna clear these on the video because I don't have enough time. But basically, what I did is I stained it like a weathered oak to bring back the pallet wood look, and then I used Minwax. Let's go back in here. This stuff right here, polyacrylic, Minwax. Okay, this is pretty expensive in all honesty. This was like, for this was like 20 bucks, 23 bucks or something like that, maybe even 30. Semi-clear gloss, or clear semi-gloss. It's gonna worry you a little bit because it's like a white paste almost. When you put it on, it's like milky. It clears up, don't worry. That's just how it works. It kind of acts like an epoxy where it like hardens a little bit more, other than like the polyurethanes are kind of like keep it more wood, where this kind of makes it smoother. And then I haven't gotten it yet, but I ordered Minwax wax. It's literally a wax. That's not it, but or you can use like a buffing compound, like for cars or something, like a wax that way, and wax them that way, because you want them waxed so your bags slide. Because if you don't have that, they don't slide as far as you'd like them to. But hopefully this helped. Hopefully, if you have any questions, ask me in the comments. I will try to be answering everything. But all in all, I gotta make legs for the other one. These turned out pretty good, I think. I didn't explain this either. I did 3 coats of this, and you're supposed to sand this stuff in between. I hit it with, I think, 220 grit, just lightly. Don't use a sander, just with your hand or like on a foam square. Rub it along there, just knock down any debris, because there's gonna be like dust particles and stuff, and that will smooth it like baby smooth. Hit it with another coat, kind of sand it down just a little bit more, and then try to wax it off with that wax. But thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you being here, supporting me what I do every single day. Hopefully this helped furthermore spark your interest in making some DIY pallet cornhole boards. The only thing, like I said, the only thing I really had to buy was the 2x3s, which I already had from Blanket Ladders, and the bolts, nuts, and lock nuts, bolts, and washers. That's pretty much all I bought. So